Okay. Good evening. It is October 25th at 6:21, and I'm calling the meeting to order. I would like to have an attendance, a roll, beginning with Deborah Hogan. Deb?
Deborah Hogan, mayoral appointee. Thank you.
Brandy Brown, District 3.
Justin McGregor, District 7.
Kenya Middleton, Vice Chair, Mayor appointee.
Mary Ann Callahan, First District.
And what else?
Michelle O'Loughlin, 5th District.
Marilyn Austin, 6th District.
Jacob Kumpon, Council at Large.
Thank you. Does anyone have any comments about the minutes from the last meeting? And if not, may I have a motion to approve? Deb?
I make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, the minutes are accepted. Before we start our conversations, I'd like to point out that none of us got calls from Sharon today to remind us of the meeting, and the reason that we didn't get them is because Sharon was treated very rudely by some of us, and she refuses to do it anymore, which is kind of a shame because I know that most of us are not like that. So I just want to let you know that that's what happened. And the other thing I want you to look at, a while ago, I sent out the community questionnaires with some suggestions so that we can change them. I'd like you to take a look at them again, and maybe we'll talk about them at our next meeting so that it makes them a little user friendly, because many of us are going to be leaving and we'd like to leave a legacy behind that makes it easier for our successors to do their job. So we'll maybe talk about that next time.
You want me to be of that form?
Yeah, that would be a good idea if you would, Steve. And what I did was I made my suggestions and then I put in red what we could do so that you guys could add. I mean, I didn't want to seem like I was pronouncing, but I was saying if we had this on the form, it might be useful. So we can talk about that next time.
I did
Okay.
see it, Marianne. I'm sorry, I didn't reply to it. I agreed with what you
You
put.
did see it?
Yes.
Okay.
But
yeah.
I think I just kept adding with other things and didn't reply.
Well, yeah, it's
Sorry.
not, it
Sorry.
wasn't earth shattering, but no, it was just to look at it, but I just want to point it out because it was a while ago and we'll talk about it next time, which is another while in the future. So just to keep you abreast of what's happening. And the next thing on our agenda is the member discussion of community conversations that you might have had with some of your constituencies regarding priorities for the block grant. And let the record show that Ebony Hatto has come. Hi, Ebony. So not to put you on the hot seat, but you're first on the list. Marilyn? Okay, let me do that again.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, I didn't do that on purpose. No, what we were asked the last time to have conversations with people in our districts to see what their priorities were for the block grant. And I guess maybe the best way to do this, guys, is if you just want to contribute, Steven's given me a list, but let's make this an open forum. And if you have some ideas, feel free to give them. And if you didn't get much feedback, we'll take your own opinion, whatever. So whoever wants to start, I don't want to put anybody. Okay, all right. Well, all the more reason. Yes, Brandy.
Okay, so I encountered lots of community members. There's obviously a housing crisis that's happening. There's also like, I don't want to say like a food shortage, but like in my community, there's not like really like healthy choices as far as meals. Like we have a Price Chopper, but it's not necessarily in like my neighborhood, and that's like our supermarket. There's nothing closer.
You're talking about a food desert that's
Yeah.
called, yeah.
Yeah.
Kim, you
So
would know all about that.
yeah. So those are two of the things that I would say would be like issues that I'm hearing from like people that actually need help. Now we also have things that I'm hearing about like I don't know if what has to be done, but for like the resources that are in our community are really like limited. The workforce being at the mall is not really good for people. The mall had all of this construction going on over the summer. Is not something that people actually have access to, even if they don't like have I mean, if they don't have a car, they can get on the bus, but the bus is like an hour ride, and it's not really an hour ride from downtown to Johnson City Mall. So it's like Binghamton is losing like, well, in my area, from what I'm hearing, it's losing its community resources. They're too spread apart. So those are my like
So
That's
could
what
we
I'm-
call that employment opportunities or facilities, employment facilities?
yeah, not I mean just like I mean like the workforce used to be downtown.
Yeah,
You have DSS.
access.
Yeah, access to it.
Access.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I mean it's okay for people to receive a DSS, but it would be better if they could go around the corner and go to the workforce. I don't know why that changed, but it should something needs to happen because if you go to DSS, they're going to send you to the workforce. And if you can't get to the workforce because you don't have a bus pass or because it's so far or because it's construction or whatever it is, you can't really like walk, like you literally have to walk up a hill. Everybody does not have that capability.
Even if you have a car, it's a pain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
No, it's
it's
true.
just those are like
Okay,
housing, food, and work.
employment.
Access to,
Employment.
Employment.
Employment opportunities.
okay.
Yeah.
Now, is that just employment or does that, you said workforce, so that's the training. So is it both training and actual access to the actual jobs themselves?
Nobody really. They just. I would just hear like about people that are looking for jobs. They're not really talking to me about training. They're just talking about looking for work.
Okay, I'll mark it down then as access to employment.
Okay.
I think the other thing I'd like to add is when we're all done, Steve, if you look at our list and tell us where we have opportunity, where the block grant could weigh in and where it couldn't. So feel free to, pronounce widely and then Steve will let us know what we can do from the block grant point of view. Anybody else?
I'll talk really quick. I do know that, oh, I'm so sorry. I do know that on, where I live at, people were talking about housing. Even people more so in my district, it's kind of stable housing, but they're still worried about outside of the district and what's going to happen to them because like even though people may have homes, they're worried about the future on what is going to happen. Like if will they be
Like
able to
property
afford,
taxes or-
property tax,
yeah.
yes, will they be able to still afford their homes? Just that basically, but more importantly, they're really worried about that. Also, I'm not sure if people drive down Main Street. I do know that people are starting to sleep in those bus. Like when you're driving down Main Street, they have the bus, I can't think of what you would call it, but
Kiosks.
kiosks. Yeah, well, people are starting to sleep there at nights. I drive by it often, and that's in the second district. But I drive by it often, and there's people. They have their suitcases and their blankets. So I really think that housing is becoming a real, a big problem here. Also, I would say from my experience from my job working with food insecurity, that due to the pantries, now they're up. So people like at this point, like food is becoming so expensive. So a lot of the pantries now they're seeing working people. So it's not just the typical homeless person that you would think would come to pantries. A lot of it now is working class people who have to different I can't even say it, but you know, make a choice whether they are going to pay their bills or feed their
Feed
family.
their families, yeah.
And that's it. I'm sorry.
One of the things that I wanted to bring up was the homelessness issue.
It-
I know in my neighborhood, we had a warming center that did not go through. And one of the reasons that it didn't go through was because it was perceived by many people as not being sufficient enough for the needs that are out there. And I think that if we could leverage our funding to provide and with housing, what I'd like to see is our programs for first-time home buyers, that money that we could have and helping people keep their homes. Many times
Yeah.
older people are worried about if the roof goes, I can't afford it.
Definitely. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off, but
But
I
you
want.
did it
I'm
anyway.
sorry. I'm sorry. I'm
That's
sorry.
okay.
I'm sorry. But I
No,
want.
good
I
tip.
just want to. I got you, girl. I got you, girl. So, so with the homeless thing too, I think that like giving it money, like we need to have a solid plan on what we need to do. Not only that, once we get a solid plan, we need to follow up because you can keep giving money and money and money to this issue, but unless you're putting down a solid plan,
And
following up,
solving the
yes,
problem.
and solving the problem,
Yeah.
following up with a plan, it'll keep going in the same circle and same circle. Like I know we've been awarded lots of money tons of times and we're still at the same rate. I know that Binghamton City Schools, there's so many kids that are just living in one hotel room. And like I have two daughters. I can't imagine my two kids like just living in a hotel room, not being able to move, you know, when they come home from school. So it is a big problem.
And I think that what Steve has asked us to do is to talk about larger plans that maybe accumulate real funding to address real problems. And, you know, the homeless issue and housing. Right now, homeowners in the city are the minority. And we should encourage that. We should encourage, you know, in my neighborhood, there's a lot of, they would be great starter homes. They're not fancy, but they're great starter homes
Mhm.
for families to come in.
Mhm.
And first-time home buyers, you know, that we could encourage and really leverage enough money for the issues that we see as priorities. Anybody else? Michelle?
I would have to second that about the homeless and housing issues. I volunteer at Samaritan House on Fayette Street. And I also volunteer at Nearly New Shop, Main Street, almost to Johnson City. So I see who is accessing those types of programs and lots more homeless lately. And I see there's some people living in tents on the river on Conklin Ave. If you go over the Washington Street Bridge, the pedestrian bridge, there are tents there that are up against the wall. So you can
Oh,
just see
wow.
the top of the tents up against the wall.
We
So,
have a homeless enclave near First Ward Park too.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Yeah.
Marilyn, can you, so that everybody can hear you?
Go over to the park and park it.
Keep-
When
keep
it
it
was
There you go.
open swimming or whatever, they'd go, whatever they have to do in there. Now that the swimming pool's closed, they're gone, but they're dark back into the woods. They're taking firewood stuff, you know.
And it's not
taking
even
through
winter yet.
dumpsters. It's not, you know. It's,
And I don't know if you guys know it, but there was actually a woman who froze to death last winter here.
yes,
Mhm.
But as I'm, continuing my thought like about Fayette Street, most of those apartments over there are empty.
are they empty or are they BU?
No, it's empty. It's bad housing. A lot of it is one of the
Are they empty because
notorious
they've been condemned or?
both.
Both.
both. Because many of them are owned by the notorious person that owns a lot of derelict properties around.
Yeah,
And so they were, the people that have been there, the staff that have been there the longest, they said big shift in people are coming now from Endicott maybe, or
wow.
Johnson City, and not necessarily the immediate neighborhood anymore because they don't live there because it's all empty,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And if you look at the properties that are next to where the new Vines building is going up, those, I mean, you're probably familiar with it, Steve. Yeah,
where
you
is
ever
that
get a
exactly?
chance, if you ever get a
Where is that?
chance,
The corner of Susquehanna and
Oh, yeah.
Fayette.
There you go.
It is just empty building after empty building after empty building right there.
and that's now part of the 6th district.
That's
Yeah.
now the River District.
I
So
think,
it's been
I want to say,
redistricted.
I think that's most of those properties are vacant due. I think they get hit with the flood in 2011.
Nope,
There's
No.
not a
Of-
2011
No,
flood
it's
issue.
not.
this is
It's
by,
No.
by, behind Columbus School.
Okay,
Okay.
no, it's all
Oh.
empty over there because it's dark. Yeah, I don't ever see any lights when I'm driving by. over there.
Yeah.
St.
Most of
Mary's
them are boarded
Rec.
up.
Yeah, the rec St. Mary's rec.
Yeah, it's so housing is definitely huge issue.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as so much has gone for student housing,
Yeah.
and then that blocks out,
And so many properties go to auction, which are then sold to absentee landlords who suck the blood out of those houses,
right.
charge the highest rents.
Oh, the rent's high.
DSS can't inspect those places like they used to,
Right.
and I was helping to resettle refugees, and it just is downward spiral.
Right. And so then the other thing is you mentioned the first time homeowner academy or
Well, not
program.
necessarily, but the funding
Yeah,
for
the
first time.
funding.
Yeah,
But then the academy that people can go through. I mean, I think it's great that people have an opportunity to have help to be first time home owners, but they also need to understand what it takes to be a good homeowner.
no, that's true.
How to take care of the property,
Mhm.
that you have to mow the lawn. You have to not have garbage out on the front steps and, things like, it's not just getting that building, you are becoming part of a neighborhood
Yeah,
and you need to invest in it.
there's a lot of landlords that could do that with their tenants too.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
But we may be going far afield of what we can do here at the block
Right.
grant. So Steve, keep us reined in, okay?
You're good.
Okay. Anything else?
So I had a east side cleanup that I did again. I've been doing it every other month since 2016, and I asked a lot of the volunteers, some of them with Salvation Army. Some of those gentlemen join us every time along Court Street to help us clean up. But I was asking them and others, they were talking about housing being an issue in some of the immediate Upper East Side people who were joining us. They were talking about volunteers with Fairview Church. They were talking about the lack of code enforcement. Again, I know we discussed this last year, but it's just, we're watching it just deteriorate in front of our eyes. Little things, broken windows, everything, lawn, waist deep on houses with people living in them.
I have a story to tell you guys. We have the First Ward Neighborhood Watch. We started it up again after COVID, and we had a really fantastic discussion last time. We talked about squatters' rights, which are really scary. But one of the things that came up was that issue about code, and we had people from code there. We had people from Public Works, and our councilman came. So we had people that could answer to why things weren't getting done. One of the things that I think a lot of people don't realize is some of the problem lies in the city court system that doesn't treat. And I heard a story that was horrible. There was someplace, I think it might have been the south side or no, east side. And somebody had a speaker in a tree and they would blast their music and drive the neighbors crazy. It went to court. The judge fined the person, but did not require him to take the speaker down. So he went home and turned the speaker back on. So we need, it's a complex issue.
I think one of the problems with it is cities with strong code enforcement have tickets that can be given, specific line item tickets that can be given without court based on
Yeah.
appearance,
Yeah.
et cetera. Pictures show,
And see, that's an issue for city council or
yeah,
the
and city
mayor.
council's got to attack that
That really, they
to
really do.
give them the power.
Yeah,
Okay,
we've
right
got-
now
we've
it's
gotta
in the
tighten
weight
up.
of the courts. Oh,
Yeah.
I will mow it 30
Yeah.
days down the road
Mhm.
once the court date happens. I will mow it 30 days later. Oh, I'll mow it.
hmm
The final 30 days, okay, city mows it and charges them $50 or whatever.
Come to the neighborhood watch meetings when we have the mayor and somebody from city court.
Oh, we have
It'll
them
be
on the east
interesting.
side too. We
Yeah, I
can
know,
stop,
but we'll come to yours and you come to ours.
okay.
Cool. Okay.
But
And-
yeah, and another issue they were talking about, and I'm not sure what grant issue that we can do, but everyone's applauding the reconstruction of the flood wall along Court near Tompkins Street, finally, because you can't put your arm through it anymore. But they're worried about all the rules and what's happening with the rest of it significantly, because the east side is basically being left as and you have this in the first ward too, being left where no flood protection.
And we don't even know, I mean, has that map been finalized? The
The
flood
map's
map?
been finalized, but not formally adopted. And I actually show the map in my presentation, or I
Okay.
have a picture of it.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, because we're in limbo right now. We don't
Yeah.
know what's going on.
And whether you have to get flood insurance and the value of the properties and
Because I got a creek that goes straight through my property.
Yeah.
Underground.
Is that federal money that does the wall? The flood walls?
It's usually a combination. My understanding at the last thing I had heard, Juliet told me, I think that it's like a 30 or $40 million project to bring all the flood walls in the city up to the requirements to remove as much of the city from the floodplain as possible.
Oh, I just had a question. I'm not sure if this is true, but I thought maybe the federal government said they would kind of help with that. But the properties here haven't been assessed in a long time, so it looks like on paper that we don't like our properties aren't worth anything because they haven't been assessed in 30 years. And this is hearsay. I'm not facts, but I heard that the federal government would kind of help with that if our properties were up to date, because it looks like on paper, because there hasn't been an
But that
assessment.
shouldn't matter.
I think
Up-
it's, you have to
yeah.
protect the value
Yeah.
of the property of the project or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, but I mean, if your house isn't
That's
worth,
why in New Orleans, the 9th Ward is mostly level.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it's right.
No,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it isn't right.
No, it isn't.
but
I,
those houses are gonna be, like on the Lower East Side, are gonna be worthless.
well, and you know, at
if
a
you have
time when
to-
we need all the housing stock we can get,
Yeah.
which is the sad part. But I do have.
There
good
are
news.
11 units available within 2 blocks of my house if someone's looking for an apartment in the $950 to $1,800 a month range.
Whoa.
Sorry,
In
Yeah, it's
Bingham?
insane.
that's more than my mortgage.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's crazy.
that's my student loan payment.
Yeah, wow. I do have good news, though. I don't know if many of you know this, but Binghamton is one of the only communities, if not the only community in the country that got the railroads and the federal government to look at our underpasses. And they are now, so that when I drive through on Front Street, I don't have to worry about the thing falling on me while I'm waiting for the red light.
Yeah, it's scary.
Oh yeah, I do the pray and gun or
Yeah.
park a little bit of ways because I
Yes.
just keep waiting. I'll see the train going by.
Exactly.
Oh,
Did
Yeah.
you see what they did though on Brandywine? It's like all these boxes, different heights. Did you see the
No.
reconstruction of the concrete pillars to stabilize them?
Uh-huh.
Every pillar now has a different height box along the way. It's like, looks like Tetris or something as you drive through.
Are you sure that's not just what do they call them, an installation, an art
It,
installation?
it looks like an art installation. It
Yeah,
would be great if
exactly.
they painted them different colors.
There you go.
That's scary.
Graffiti blocks is what they are, right?
No, actually, right now they're clean.
Oh, okay. Okay. Anybody else?
Just one other comment was public safety.
Okay. Go ahead, Michelle.
Just public, people that I've talked to, public safety. And, to concentrate on public safety.
How? In what way?
As far as like over on Vestal Ave, there at the intersection of Vestal and South Washington, in Mitchell and Park, there's a lot of people that are just drifting around, a lot of panhandlers. Like on a Saturday morning, there's people sleeping all over the place, and it's because there's a Dunkin' Donuts there. There's the clinic at General Hospital,
Yeah, the methadone. clinic.
and there's just a lot.
So are these
going
more
on.
like vagrancy issues?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Because, as opposed to maybe an increase in crime, home break-ins and things like that.
Well,
I'm just,
there's been
clarifying.
There's a couple of home break-ins.
yeah,
too.
we had some over
Yeah.
where I live too.
Yeah.
And they got the guy in South Carolina and I
Yeah.
guess they indicted him yesterday. So that was pretty cool.
Councilman Burns had somebody enter his house, and the neighbor noticed it during the day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? Oh, Deb, I'm sorry.
Yep, no problem. The issues that I encountered, code enforcement, police, parks, home ownership, and vacant properties. I'd like to first address code enforcement. The issue regarding garbage and trash, it's just not a lack of garbage cans. This is where, and there's a myth that I'll be personally can tell you, the price of buying blue bags is a fraction of what it would cost to have a hauler come, like Taylor or Burt Adams.
Mhm.
The issue is it's not just being put out, it's not being put out, and it's accumulating behind properties. My street Holly was blessed to have it not only hidden but front, and had called in regarding getting it picked up because we have the infamous landlord and property owner as well. And at one point thanked the garbage men that would come Wednesday to tag it and pick it up.
Mhm.
But when they found needles, that's when they stopped doing that. The new thing that we have is graffiti, to the point that if anybody is seen, I believe it was Sheon's, the corner of Court and Carroll Streets, and just a cut through, I personally noticed because someone brought it to my attention, was the graffiti on, it used to be at Carroll and Lyle Avenue. There was a 3 or 4 story red skinny building that used to house the beginning of a Brunelli community painting. It now has tagging, and I had an opportunity to talk to one of the CRT officers and was able to send in a picture on one of their phones that they hadn't noticed it. And also it's on the back side of the Urban League. That is something that we haven't seen, and it's what I would say new to the area. One of the taggers that goes back to the Project Pride days, if anybody had followed the Broome County, oh my goodness, for Business Owners Chamber of Commerce, SEEP, SEEP, that is a tag that's throughout Broome County. And to my knowledge, that person has never been caught, but darn it all, recent taggings in Center City. So just be curious to see if you folks have that particular tag as well.
Deb, real quick, did you say that a mural got tagged?
Yes, but that I was just trying to show a local, it's not a mural in what you would, the full sense. It was in a project that was abandoned many years ago, but it was the start of murals.
Okay.
At the uppermost part of the building. So it's like at least 4 or 5 facial, but they didn't complete the rest of it. But at the bottom, what you would say, eye level, arm level is where the new tagging has occurred.
Okay.
And just some concerns that some of the tagging may be more than just an innocent, we're leaving, our call letters. The look and feel of the neighborhood, and sometimes when you're a long time and you have people that are coming in new, they have a different view of that. And it's almost like we have taken the clock back to the mid-90s when we initiated the Department of Justice Weed and Seed grant. That was something that I researched and we brought to the community. Marianne, you had gone to a few of our meetings to learn about that. Was very successful and something that a lot of the neighbors partook in. I'm going to skip down to home ownership because what that goes to, for example, there's only 3 of us on Holly Street that are homeowners, 1 on J Street. And some of my original families, I would say, are less than 10 over on Pine Street. And that was very much a family-oriented community street. The affordable housing, I know that's the mantra, but it's a little bit more complicated than that for those of us who are living around that. It is not necessarily home ownership friendly. There's not enough attention being paid to home ownership. We're one of the lowest. I heard one report. I don't know if it's in the county or in the state. And I think the more we can work to, we're doing good as far as retaining some of our young people after they've gone through BU, but it's not necessarily in actually planting the roots. Yes, they may rent and have jobs here, but then they eventually leave. If we can have that branded that we're just not a good place to live, we're also a great place to set your roots down and to start your family. School taxes are skyrocketing here. It's not just your mortgage that you have to worry about. And those homeowners that are left are seniors with incomes dwindling, and taxes become very much a burden. Sometimes when you see the grass not being mowed, is that a senior homeowner? It is very hard to try to find help if it's not within your family or a significant other to have this be done for you. Maybe this is where the First Ward Action Council can do more to show their efforts in the home repairs. When Mayor Cram went on TV last June to announce that, the money was gone in weeks, and there was at least 2 signups, meaning they'd have to go through 2 sheets before they could get to people. And that's without everybody widely knowing about that program. Not all small landlords are slum landlords. And I think many times that's the broad brush, because there are, in my neighborhood, I can think of at least 2 that, because they had such a deep connection going back to the weed and seed times, they wanted to make a difference and to own properties that could be kept up and would be locally purchased and locally managed. The other part is going back to policing. CPTED is one of the best tools that we have been able to utilize as a neighborhood, and credit that in helping one of these houses deal with the trash issues, and we now have it boarded up. The parks. There was a lot said about us not having a community center. That really put a damper, I believe, personally, and other people for the neighborhood, and didn't realize and looked into it. Somebody had asked about the Little League. Where did the Little League go? And I'm not sure if that was a correlation because of the community center coming in and the footprint of that would have taken the Little League field or not. But Center City many times was city champs. Very proud of that in years past. So that's for the young people, for something to do. And we recently lost one of those neighbors who invested in our young people. Mr. Bennett was very heavily involved in the CYO programs and also in the parks programs. So that's also a loss. Who's going to be filling that in? And I'd like to lastly close in regards to the vacant properties. I think that's a black eye on every neighborhood. We all have them. And if there is a way that it does not have to be leveled, but in turn maybe repurposed. One of the questions that came up, there was much fanfare about the Urban League. That was a huge loss. But it was advertised that the YWCA was to be moving their child care center there. Nothing has happened. And I'm not sure if we're into the second year since that announcement, but that is a huge hole in the heart of this community. I think I've covered most areas. Thank you.
Anyone else? I think we've pretty much covered everyone's
Yeah.
insights.
The only thing I want to add is that I actually spoke. I noticed. Okay, so my car got broken into in December. Someone rated it for $150 for some reason. And I stopped parking on the underground area because I thought that was too much. And this is the State Street garage. So I started parking up, and the other day I noticed there was glass all on the ground near where I'd parked. I said, "Oh, there's a break-in, obviously." So I went and talked to the parking people about it, the LAZ parking. And they say, yeah, people still are breaking into cars. But I got the impression it wasn't like in my situation where someone was breaking in for money. It was that, especially on the 6th floor, which is where all the college kids park on the State Street garage, so that they can just walk through that little tube to the apartments up there. Those are the places getting broken into. And the reason is because homeless people are breaking into them at night to sleep in them. And I know I had seen another homeless individual, well, I assumed homeless. Someone sleeping on the street in the sleeping bag, I'm going to assume is homeless, in front of the old, what is it, the 607 Club there right next to the State Street garage. Just sleeping there. As soon as I got to my office, I called the YWCA, their street outreach person, and said, "Hey, there's a person there. They're sleeping. I don't know much more than that if you want to go check it out." So I do know that the homeless situation, especially the individuals not going to the shelters or sleeping outside the shelters, is a problem. I know that. I've seen it. I've seen the effects of it. So it can lead to an increase in crime. Although honestly, I'm not going to say I don't think it leads to an increase necessarily of what I would call violent crime, people may argue with me, but I don't think breaking into a car could be considered violent, although people may disagree with that. Just breaking in to have some place to stay. And I understand the thought behind that, although obviously it then creates an issue with the community. You have crime, you have an increase, you have a situation where, there's a person's property's damaged, so on. So that's the only thing I can really comment on sort of in this kind of scope. Regarding the rest of what everybody was talking about, most of these
Steve,
things
can I
can,
ask
oh
you
yeah,
a
go ahead.
question before we leave
Yeah,
that
yeah.
topic? Do you get the feeling that they're doing this because there aren't available spaces for them that we've sort of reached, we've maxed?
I do not know.
That
It's
would be
not really been
something-
brought up in the COC meetings I've had, and
That would be
I'm gonna make a
something
note.
for
of that.
us. Yeah, that would be something for us to check into, to see why this is happening. Are we providing enough emergency shelter? Because I know we've been, when we do talk about the ESG programs, we've gotten the impression that they're maxed out.
Yeah, generally
Okay.
that's what they say. They're maxed
Okay.
out on beds and so on. So I'll bring it up
Thank
at the
you.
next COC
Okay,
meeting.
thank you.
I will say pretty much everything you guys have spoken of is something that generally can be addressed with CDBG or ESG funds. Now, as to whether an agency is proposing an activity to address that, I can't answer that. I just got the applications today. I just real quick brief through most of your standard agencies are applied. One agency did apply for permanent supportive housing, which is basically they're applying for CDBG rental rehab. And generally my knee-jerk reaction is always to say no, but I'm going to go look through the rules and regs and see how, just because it's burdensomely onerous on the property owners. But if we offer the option and say, if you want the money, you're going to have to follow these rules and regulations, we might be able to take that as a starting point. And if that works out well, we may eventually look at helping even landlords. I know this has come up before. I talked to Deb about this before, about, whether landlords could get assistance rehabbing a home. And the answer is yes, ... lots of asterisks, lots of like qualifiers and regulations. But it is a possibility we could do, but it does dip into the CDBG pool, and you limited pool, dwindling pool. So
Exactly.
this is something that could potentially. Oh, and I also want to tell everyone that we have changed how we're doing the just recently. The first time homebuyer program now offers $10,000 instead of $5,000 for closing costs assistance. And also we are sort of shifting our rehab program to now provide rehab of, we're gonna try it. We'll see how it works. Utilities. We're going to basically upgrade utilities to Energy Star. And the way we're going to do it is relatively quick in the bureaucratic HUD world. And we potentially could put up to $25,000 worth of new appliances into people's homes that are all Energy Star compliant. So this is something we're starting. We haven't actually done a project yet. We've just gotten approval from the mayor. We're putting it together on how we're going to handle it. But that's to address one person's concern about, and I don't know who, actually multiple people, about the elderly or people just living in their homes and worried if they can't afford it, or they can't afford upgrades and repairs. That's one way we'll possibly be able to help everybody.
Steve, could
yeah.
you clarify that first program you talked about, renter? Can you clarify who you're talking about? Because then you mentioned landlords and you kind of.
Oh, okay. So generally with CDBG funds, we have shied away from non-owner occupied rehab. So basically renter rehab using CDBG.
Which would be helping the landlord out.
Would be helping a landlord out, or let's say a nonprofit that's providing housing,
Okay.
temporary housing. There's one agency that applied for that. So generally we've only done owner occupied housing. So if we
see.
decide to do renter occupied housing rehab, then we're going to have to follow some additional rules and regulations. But if that's okay with agencies, it could technically be okay with landlords. So, you'll have landlords that own, say, a duplex. They live in one side
Yeah,
and they rent out
exactly.
the other. And that's actually a very common occurrence in the city, especially with the elderly.
This would encourage more good people to try to be landlords too.
Potentially, but what I'm
Rather
thinking
than-
more is just improving the quality of the housing stock is the one thing. So that's one housing issue we're having is the quality of the housing stock more than anything is the problem. I make the joke, it's all the asbestos and lead you can eat, and that's really it.
Yeah.
And I have some slides and maps to show you just some of the quality of the housing stock issues that we have in the
But if
area.
you're helping to rehab a rental property, you're kind of flying in the face of the irresponsible absentee landlord.
Well,
make-
that the
you're
landlords who would
providing-
apply would have to be
you-
responsible.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. So you would give an incentive to a lot of people who I know have sold their income properties because it's just not worth it
Yep.
anymore.
At first blush, I'm going to argue, I'm going to think that it's probably going to basically be, there's going to be a period of affordability, which means that for that period of time, anyone who rents that unit must meet income requirements approved by the city. And we'll tie it up with a mortgage, and then we'll do some sort of forgiveness after a period of time, either full forgiveness, which I'm not as big of a fan on, or probably like maybe a 20%, 80% forgiveness. And that way we can get a little bit of money coming back in
That's
once
nice.
the unit
Start.
sells. And that mimics our current housing rehab program.
Thank you for the
but-
clarification.
Most of this stuff is doable with CDBG or ESG. Some things like code enforcement, getting that stricter, that's kind of outside of our hands. That's
Yeah.
really call your council person and yell at them kind of situation. But most of this other stuff, just broad brush, most of the stuff is something you can deal with. In regards to the graffiti, Deb, and the reason I asked you that one specific question, one sort of like, and just because of I've been doing this for like 15 years and I kind of hear these like, hey, try this. One way of preventing tagging is to put murals up, because it's a weird thing where in general, and this isn't all the time, taggers respect art, if
Yeah.
that makes sense. So it's almost an insult to tag
The
an
mural,
actual
mural on the East Clinton Street Bridge as you're going toward
Is
Clinton.
there a
Street.
tag on it?
No. it
Okay.
has never had a tag on it.
Yeah,
and
it's
we
it's the
are a-
weirdest thing.
yeah.
Now, obviously, we can't put murals everywhere, and so maybe other options would be
But you might
uh,
get school kids or maybe the university's art department
Yeah.
to do some
We
stuff
can
like
put
that.
'em ev-
the what?
We can put them everywhere.
Yeah, that's a lot of
Yeah.
murals.
We can be innovative.
Can we help the DPA?
The
What
what?
is it, DPA? Department of Public Art?
Is there a Department of Public Art?
Yeah,
In
Oh.
the city,
yeah. They
don't
sent me
know.
a message
who
like
runs
2
it?
days ago.
it might be
I'm
like a
pretty
committee
sure.
like this one, and I don't know who it's under.
Oh, so they
Maybe
so
parks.
they usually get like people from out of the area to do the painting, because apparently nobody here can do it or whatever. I mean, they probably can, but
You haven't found the
Oh.
ones around here who can do it. that's
right,
why.
but they're not. I don't know if they're looking hard enough.
Why
But
don't do the
it's-
research and come back and let us know?
Yeah, I
Okay.
will.
But
Okay.
but actual paintings themselves in a low income residential neighborhood is eligible under CDBG, or potentially putting up sealants or resistant paint can be done as part of CDBG. Deb,
This is interesting because the director of code, Chris Schreier, his wife, Michelle, when they were just starting with their properties, I was one of the volunteers and many neighbors. And one of the examples is the rec center was tagged, and there's different ways of trying to conceal that and put, like you're speaking of sealants. She had a brochure and everything. Keith Heron, we tried to get funding for that particular grant wasn't awarded, but the framework, and I'm sure she has the information that it could very easily be updated and could serve as maybe, project consultant or just information, but that was going for several years.
no agency applied. Oh, well, you know what? I can't say that no agency applied with a request for this. I haven't gone through all the applicants yet, but I'm doubting any agency specifically applied for it. So it would be a situation where we would maybe just encourage an agency next year to apply for those funds. And remember, we're working on a 5-year plan, so we can put this in as part of the 5-year plan if you want to. But I don't want to drag out the meeting too long. And if
Okay.
you want, I can get to the PowerPoint presentation,
Absolutely.
because there will be questions after the PowerPoint presentations and the maps too. So
Okay,
let me start flying through this.
okay, I'm gonna move so I can.
All right. This is similar to last year. I updated it. Unfortunately, I ran out of time on updating everything, and I'll tell you specifically where I could and could not update it. So the people of the city of Binghamton, who lives in the city. So demographics, and this is all most of the stuff I'm going to do is from the 2021 ACS 5-year. I know I speak in anagram HUD speak. ACS is American Community Survey, if you don't know. The most recent data I could get for this is the 2021 5-year, which means that it's a sort of an estimate using 5 years worth of surveys going back, and the release date was 2021. So comparing this to the previous last year's thing, the population of the city has actually gone up, which is a reverse in trends we've been seeing for years. The non-minority population has increased, but so has the minority population. And because of the discrepancies between the non-minority population as a percentage has decreased, and the more minority population has increased. And non-minority versus minority, and I use it all the time. Non-minority population is white, non-Hispanic, or Latino. That's sort of the HUD census definition of it. Minority population is everyone else. The elderly population has, as a percentage, has increased to 23%. The number of the percentage of the population of children in the city has relatively remained the same at 20%. The percentage of the population that's disabled has increased to 21%, and a lot of that is age correlation. And then 1% of the population have limited English speaking in their household. And that's, I don't have the information from last year because I presented a different question. So that's just a note that that's just that. Now, this is not a population pyramid because it doesn't look like a pyramid, but it's more of a comparison, and I just want to use that. So blue is the previous one I showed you guys. Orange is the most recent data I have, and in every single age bracket except for children 5 to 9, the population has increased. So what this tells us in general is there are more people here in the city of almost every age range, other than people necessarily having children. School-age children in low-mod areas, I was not able to get, this is last year's data because not all these agencies have submitted their final paperwork, so I don't have it. But last year we had, or actually 2 years ago, we served about 700 school-age kids. We have several programs to help school-age children: CARES, Boys and Girls Club, Urban League, Achieve. So geographic focus of HUD funds. In general, HUD funds are spent across the city. And generally the 2 areas where HUD funds are not spent would be the 2nd district and 5th, 6th, and 7th districts. So generally that's where they're not done because of the low mod target areas, and I'll show you a map. So the blue are low mod target areas. If you hear anyone in the city, I wish they wouldn't use this phrase, CDBG target area. The reason I hate that phrase is because literally everyone else in the city thinks, oh, is it located there? Then it's absolutely good to go and it's CDB eligible and I don't have to talk to Steve about it. And it's not that simple. But those areas for programs, services, and projects that affect areas, those, if they affect predominantly those blue areas, they qualify for CDBG eligibility. So where and how do people live in the city? So we talked about housing before, again, from the 2021 ACS 5-year. The number of housing units has gone down, and there's approximately 2 people per housing unit now, which has gone up. So there's fewer units, but there's more people per unit. The number of occupied units as a whole has gone down. The percentage of homeowners has gone down, and the percentage of renters has gone up. Obviously, that's the cross between the two. The percentage of homeowners in poverty has increased, but as a good thing, the percentage of renters in poverty has gone down to 46%. I think it was 45 or 44% last year. Actually, I think it was 44. That was probably the biggest chunk. I think it was like 2%. The number of vacants and the percentage of vacant units has gone up as well. Several agencies provide supportive housing, YWCA, Catholic Charities, VOA. Some CHOTO projects we've done in the last few years: Family Enrichment Networks, $100,000 Liberty Street project, Greater Opportunities sites scattered in the same area, Liberty Street, Munsell, $275,000. These are all CHOTO projects. Our goal in the next few years is we actually have a backlog of CHOTO funds, and I'm trying to find CHOTO projects to use those for. We know of one project that's in a floodplain that a church owns that we're thinking of putting a maximum amount of CHOTO funds in. Right now, Chodo funds is about 245,000 per unit. And so this Mickey Mouse stuff where we're giving 100 here, 100 there is not going to do it. We have over $1 million in dedicated Chodo funds that have to be used. So Chodo, sorry, I'm sorry, I do have to speak in the HUD speak. Chodo is a community housing development organization. Think First Ward Action Council, some Catholic charities, YWCA and VOA stuff. Oh, sorry, those are wrong. Finn, wow, yeah. YWCA is doing DV housing. But a Chodo is basically an agency that gets a property, rehabs it, and then rents it out to low-income people. And it's a process, but it's required actually using home funds. Yes.
Steve, did you say DB projects?
What?
Did you just say
DV, domestic violence projects.
Thank you.
Sorry, the YWCA, their Chodo is more focused on domestic violence.
In case you're wondering, I am starting to make a vocabulary list of all of these, and I think that's something we need to do.
I've told Rashika at HUD you really should have a little pamphlet so that people don't get confused. So always think of the Chodo projects. The other thing is we have the home ARP money, which is a lot of that's going to have to go to a Chodo. So I'm supposed to schedule a meeting with the mayor in the next couple of weeks, and we're going to go over what we need to do. But we definitely need to get that money out the door. Permanent housing interventions. This would be like Finn's homelessness prevention. They generally provide 1 month of rental assistance, and I'm thinking I'm going to try to increase that to the maximum, which I think it's 24 out of 36. Generally, Finn can spend all the money, but we'll see. There have been some issues in the past, so we'll see going forward if we want to increase the number of months of assistance. Homelessness is still a problem. It's by definition a housing problem. The PIT count, this is not for me. I looked it up on the COC. They've not updated the PIT. So we're still looking at the 2021 point in time, what PIT stands for.
Thank you.
And according to that, and this is the same data last year, 308 homeless individuals in the entire 5-county area at one time. And that's usually January when they do that. They take the coldest day, the calculated coldest day, go out and see how many people are on the street. And there's the statistics for them, quite a few families with children, and then a lot of single females. Like the biggest one is single females, so many of them. But there's also a significant amount of single males. So how do people get by in the city? Well, here's our poverty numbers. The percentage of residents in poverty has gone down. The percentage of children in poverty has gone down. Percentage of elderly in poverty has remained the same. And the percentage of single mothers in poverty has also gone down. So those are all good numbers to know since last time that the percentage of people actually in poverty have gone down. When you compare the minority population, so again, minority are everyone who's not white / non Hispanic Latino. The non-minority population in poverty is 26%. That has remained the same since last year. The percentage of the population of the minority population in poverty has gone down. So that's interesting. And just as a reminder, HUD programs cannot be gated to any group based on race or ethnicity. Employment. The civilian labor force percentage unemployment has gone down. Is now at 11%. The number of employed people in poverty has gone up overall, but the percentage of employed people that are below poverty has gone down, which is interesting. So more people have moved into the area. Some of them may be in poverty that are employed, but overall, the percentage of people that are actually in employment, and that's part-time and full-time, has gone down. The percentage that are below poverty. I'm going to probably just go over this one really quick. This is the exact same as last year, so nothing really changed. This was the code violations map. Overall, it's a heat map. As you can see, most of them are concentrated on sort of, I hate to say this, we're going to be looking at NOMA quite a lot. I do apologize. And you'll see in the maps when I pull them up again, you'll see issues. This is the same as last year, garbage and litter. I didn't get this updated in time, but this is kind of how the city does it. Anyone who was here last year, this is the same stuff. Same thing with the violation resolution nothing's really changed there as far as I know. And impediments to code. So no pending changes to help expedite addressing or remediating property violations, as you guys brought up. It's kind of an enforcement aspect on the justice aspect of it. But there are other barriers for effective code enforcement, lack of employment opportunities for violators. So some people simply can't afford to upgrade, and lack of mental health services for violators. There are individuals in the city who have mental health problems. We know this. And people with mental health problems are going to have issues. They're more likely to be homeless. They're more likely to, I hate to say crazy in this term, like mental health, but they're more likely to do crazy things. And unfortunately, that can have an impact on neighborhoods and people around them. So the demolition process is pretty much the same. Usually takes about 2 years from initial beginning of the foreclosure process to where we can take them down. Crime maps are not updated. Heat map again, downtown area, Noma, but also South Side. So going through these, this one I was able to update. So this data I was able to get from the FBI criminal something. And updated where I can. 352 cases were reported last year of violent crimes, but only or 2 years ago, 318 for the last year. So the number of violent crimes reported has gone down. Hate crime data is suspiciously missing from the most recent CDE stuff. I don't know why. The world is exploding if you've been paying attention to the news. So I'm estimating that if we can get hate crime numbers, we're probably going to see hate crime numbers going up. And for the next time we do this. And unfortunately, the domestic violence, the DV numbers have gone up since last year. An overall trend last year was one of the highest in the last 7 or multiple years of the incidences of DV. So before we go questions, let me just jump to the maps. Hopefully they friggin' show up. So I'm going to have a bunch of maps. They're not in any particular order, although I did try to group them. Come on. Seriously? You're not going to show? Okay. Let's see. What? Come on. Yeah, I know. That's what I'm trying to figure out. It's there. Well, I don't know what to do if this is not showing up. Let's see. Yeah, I do not know why it's not displaying. It displays PowerPoint, but not this, and I don't know why. Okay. So I'm gonna have to describe things. This should be fun. We have broadband gaps. People with access to broadband. The highest percentage of them in the city is in the downtown area. Let's see. I do not know. Why is this not? Okay. All right, let me see what I can do really quickly here then. Okay, so where, yeah.
Biggest gap in broadband is downtown.
Yeah, in the
But
downtown
don't we
area.
have a high percentage of students that live in downtown? And
Yeah.
I mean university students.
I would believe so, but yeah, but the downtown area it has a glut compared to the US average.
Wow.
Yeah. So the aging population, where are the most elderly or where are the numbers increased? Well, they've mostly increased on the south side, Far East side, and Noma. So that's sort of where there are more people age 65 than there were previously. The concentration of the disabled in the city is the downtown area, the north part of South Side East. Yeah, I'm terrible at the zones. So, and along Clinton Street. I hate this projector now. I really do. The highest concentration of individuals without a high school education in comparison to the US is, again, the downtown area. I'm assuming it's just because we have homeless service, or we have service programs in the downtown area. It's the only thing I can think. Life expectancy, come on. The compared to the US average, your lowest life expectancy in the city is Noma. And then again, the downtown area, and then going up Brandywine. There are multiple factors. I did not pull them all together, but just glancing at them, higher rates of cancer, higher rates of asthma, that kind of thing. I'm sorry, Brandy, I'm going to say Noma over and over. All right. Where do various minority versus non-minority populations? Well, the non-minority population is concentrated in the southwest side of the city, both on the north of the river and south of the river, and the northeast side of the city. The rest is a mix of non-minority and minority, but the highest concentrations are those other areas. Social vulnerability, that's an interesting thing. I got this from CDC. Can't remember the agency that got this from. So social vulnerability is when you measure a population that has the most risk of, basically, if a disaster happens or a problem happens, that they at least likely to handle it. Ironically, this is kind of what I did my master's degree thesis on. Was I actually analyzed Suffolk County, so I understood exactly what they're talking about here. But the highest concentration there is Noma, Clinton Street in the first ward, and then essentially going east of the river from downtown all the way up to the city line, except for one tiny section in the middle there. So that means those populations are most, when you look at their vulnerability to disasters, and in this area it's going to be flooding, are least likely to rebound when problems occur. Where are most of the youth located? Well, most of the youth are located, ironically, not the downtown area or Noma. This is a population less than 18, so it doesn't include college kids, but the west side, the east side of the west side, that makes sense. Basically, Front Street going west and about halfway to the city line. There's also a large concentration of children on the east side of the city and Clinton Street. I'm really hating it. I almost feel like you guys should just come over and look at the maps. I'm not going to talk about the flood. It's just too hard to tell you where the flood is. But I will say this, the preliminary floodplain is what we have to use for HUD projects, because when you do a capital project, including rental rehabs or housing rehabs or anything like that, if they're in the existing floodplain, the existing flood map, they have to get insurance. If they're not in the existing floodplain, we don't have to require to get insurance, but we have to treat them as if they're in the prelim floodplain. We have to use the prelim flood maps for all the other flood stuff we have to do with environmental reviews. And that's like other alternatives, have you elevated stuff, all that, all that stuff. Right now, we're currently having a big issue of this with the Tubman Center on for the downtown campus. They're doing a whole multi-year project. They got state funding for it. The city's going to provide landscaping costs to cover it. But they're putting a Harriet Tubman statue down near the river. And that parcel got flooded in 2011. But also that parcel itself, when the prelim floodplains, if you look at them, it's like fingers. It's not even like it's all in or out. It's all out. It's like fingers of the floodplain go in there. So we have to get a detailed analysis of exactly where everything's going to figure out how we're going to handle that environmental review. But that's just an example of things we have to do for any project. So I told you before, we're looking at that church that has a double unit that we're trying to get a CHOTA to purchase completely within the prelim floodplain. So that means we have to, if we're going to rehab it, we've got to look at floodproofing it, elevating all the utilities, removing any improvements in the basement, yada, yada, yada. All this stuff's got to be done for that. Where are most of the homeowners at? Well, in the city, most of the homeowners are the southwest end of the city or the northeast end of the city. That's kind of similar to the when it came to some other things as well. I'll jump to renters next. Where are the renters at? Well, everywhere else. But the highest concentration is Noma, is downtown area, those kinds of areas. Individuals with housing cost burden. Now, this is the people who have the most difficulty paying for rent or mortgage or just affording their homes. The highest concentration, Noma. Like I said, I'm going to keep saying it. I hate to say it, but I pointed this out to the council person. I can't remember which council person I pointed it out to. I think it was a few years ago that is a concentration area. So if we're ever looking for a neighborhood to target and focus on, that is definitely a potential winner, if you want to call it that, for those kinds of fundings. The housing age in the city, I can say that just from anecdotally, my understanding is like over 80% of the properties are pre-1939. Ironically, the age of rental housing, anyway, I don't have the age of homeowner housing, is the highest in the Southwest and Northeast areas again. So that's an interesting dynamic. You wouldn't think that. So for some reason, the rental housing in the sort of more well-to-do areas is older. So go figure. But also Noma and Clinton Street also have some old rental housing as well. Where are the vacant housing at? Well, most of the vacant housing is in the downtown area. So that's something we actually literally just spoke about, the Susquehanna area there. So that's just an issue there. And I'm thinking that's probably got multiple factors. I do think the flood's got to have some impact, because a lot of the downtown area, like I swear Susquehanna Street got kissed by the flood all across there. So even if properties weren't flooded, if it got into the basement and was never taken care of, there could be issues there. Where does Vines is going up to it? Yeah, Vines is below it. So they're working in previously flooded, basically a previously flooded neighborhood. So. I'm not sure.
No, it did not.
Okay.
It's Vines
Could I just interrupt?
Gardens.
I think that maybe that was basement, because I remember on Lyle Ave, somebody had like fish in their basement. You know, because they had just groundwater and some river water, but it wasn't like on the south side on Conklin Ave where that really flooded in those. I mean, it was visible water a couple of feet deep. Do you know what I mean? Right. Right.
I mean, if I could, I would love to show you the 2011 flood map, but I can't. Oh, and that's the other issue too, is the backups. So ironically, there are ways we could do that with CDBG money to address that kind of thing. You can put back in the backflow devices to prevent off the trunk line. You can actually put in backflow devices. They're not too expensive, and that can help prevent that kind of situation, which can affect people out of the floodplain even, because if everything's backed up, it's backing up to your basement. Yeah. So it's difficult to go over all of this, but it's absolutely public knowledge. Yeah, you can go to Broom GIS and look at it. It's not been adopted. So the grand irony is that before 2011, the Army Corps came in, decertified our flood walls because they weren't high enough. And they did mapping and they said, okay, now your floodplain's much bigger and all these houses are in there. And then everyone raised the stink. I understand. You're going to have to buy flood insurance and you're very upset. I get that. So what happened was the new maps did not get adopted. Then 2011 came and flooded almost exactly where the preliminary floodplain said they would flood, with exceptions. It wasn't exact. And I think everyone kind of took a step back and go, okay, so, maybe we do need to adopt it now because it's difficult to get flood insurance, the right flood insurance if you're not in a legal floodplain. So so flooding is definitely going to be one of the issues, especially going forward. Because let me pull up the prelim floodplain. Your major areas there, not Noma. They're good. But Clinton Street, that or the first ward has that one covered creek. That's a drainage area. That there's a creek there that's covered, and because of that, it's not exposed. There's not sort of wetlands or any kind of overflow aspect to it. It's basically going through a tube. And then all you need is a little backup at the river. If the river is higher than the outflow, it's just going to keep backing up. So that area is at risk. A lot of the downtown area is at risk, at least south of Susquehanna Street. And then going up Brandywine is an issue. And also certain parts of the east side. There's another drainage creek over there. So the floodplain and the risk of flood does exist in the city, and that's something we have to be cognizant of. HUD forces it. If we're going to do rehabs, if we're going to do housing rehab, we're going to require people to have to get potentially, well, not right now, they don't have to get the flood insurance unless they're in the actual legal adopted one, but to do the housing rehabs and stuff, we're going to have to do more expensive things like elevate utilities and potentially put in some floodproofing measures if it's possible. So that's kind of the situation we're at. I have all these maps here. It's a lot of data. I don't really want to send it all to you unless you guys want specific ones, and I can pull up any on this desktop or this laptop if you want to see any before you leave. But I also have concentrations of poverty and stuff like that. But these follow very much the same trends. Poverty rate is definitely concentrated downtown area, Noma, that kind of area. So that's that. So that's my data presentation. I don't know why this thing's being a SOB, but does anyone have any questions?
I have a real quick question. You mentioned Clinton Street all the time, but
Yeah.
it's my understanding that Clinton Street has less residents than the rest of the ward. So are you talking about the ward or are you talking about the street?
I think
Because
it's not evenly divided up. So when I say Clinton Street, imagine Clinton Street going north several blocks.
which is the ward?
Yeah, which is
okay.
first ward, but it's
First
not
ward.
the entire first ward. There are parts that are not included in that. Because
would
a
imagine
lot of
that-
this data is based off of census block
But
groups.
I would imagine that part is very small compared to the rest of the ward.
It depends. I mean, if you ask for about a specific one, I can pull up the map and you
No,
can
I
see
just
it.
wanted to clarify that because, there aren't as many residents on Clinton Street as there are in the rest of the,
Yeah,
going up toward Prospect. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. The other question I had real quick, is the Chodo funds, are they locked in? I mean, because that's
No.
a chunk of money.
no, they've been assigned to Chodos.
So
You
when, as
can't
we're,
really take them to use them on something else because there's a sort of a minimum amount of Chodo you have to dedicate.
well, that's what my question was.
Yeah.
So that money is locked.
for
It's
Chodo
Chodos,
usage,
for
yes,
Chodos,
but it's
okay.
not then dedicated to any specific Chodo.
No, but it
But-
has to be at Chodos.
Yes, but I will say this, the thing about Chodos is Chodo money is rental rehab. So it's all about addressing many of these issues.
Okay,
The rent
that-
being too high,
Okay.
the quality of the housing stock for
So
renters.
many of the issues that we've talked about could
Could be
actually
addressed
okay.
by Chodo,
That
putting
that
funds
was
in
my
a Chodo,
okay.
yes.
Thank you.
Can you send us the presentation?
Yeah, I can send you the presentation. It's like 4.8 meg or 4.8 megs. Yeah, I can send it to. I can send you all this stuff if you want. It's going to be a really big email. Okay, I can maybe switch it to PDF. Yeah, I know, but it's also like 7:40, and I didn't want to drag it out too much. Presentation to everyone. Okay. Any other questions or concerns, or even just discussion?
Maybe a good question would be what's next?
Okay, and that's actually on the next agenda item. So packets came in today. I did not have time to collate them and get them into packets. Several of you have asked for digital, several have asked for physical. So what I'll probably try to do is over the next couple of days, get them collated, and then I'll just do drop offs. So make sure I have your correct mailing address. If I'm doing a physical drop off, digital copies, same thing. I'll just email them. Not all agency, well, as every year, not every agency did follow the rules. We actually got one agency that put the name of the agency on the front of one application and left it blank and submitted it. I told them,
Whoa.
we're not going to review your project. There's that thing where someone doesn't put in one form or misses a table or their narrative's not complete, and I'll say, can you provide that? Or they provide 9 copies and I got to run off a couple more. This was one blank copy with the name of the agency on the front. That's it.
They didn't even have the amount?
They nothing, literally nothing in there. And they're arguing with me that everything was in there and fine. And I'm like, you did not submit the correct application then. I don't know what happened. So, but there are a bunch of new agencies and I really don't know what those new agencies are. Like I said, one is wanting to do supportive housing, which normally I would try to do with ESG, but I thought, we could do CDBG. And that's where it came up that, let me re-review our rules on CDBG rental rehab and what are requirements and regulations. And there's a bit of an affordability period, but if we can get agreements that are solid and get mortgages that are solid, maybe we could do it. So it is a potential, I almost wanted to dismiss it out of hand. I said, you know what? No, let's be more creative because of the housing issues we're facing. So anyone else? So I will try to get those packets to you guys. I forget when the next meeting is, but it should be a presentation meeting. We'll start gearing those up. And I'll get that organized with whatever agencies we're going to have present. But that's that.
We'll go to a every 2 week kind of thing starting in.
It's on the calendar. If you look at the city calendar, it's on there. Oh, you got it there. Next meeting is the 8th. November 8th.
Thank you.
I have a printout here. Do you guys want me to tell you what the other dates are?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so November 8th and November 29th and then December 13th.
That's all?
Well, until the end of the year.
Yeah.
Right, but yeah.
We don't
okay.
I don't have the 2024 printout.
No,
yet.
but I'm surprised it's so spread out.
I
Yeah.
have another question.
Yeah.
Can I just come pick up the packet instead of
Yeah, if you
dropping
want
it?
to. Yeah.
Okay.
Did you need an update on your badge? Because that might be a good time to coordinate with getting your badge update. So just come in and I'll give you the packet and tell you and show you literally where to go to get your get a new badge.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone else? Bueller? Okay.
Can we?
Well, if
repeat
that's the
those dates
case,
One more time.
November 8th, November 29th, and December 13th until the end of the year. Hopefully we'll get all the presentations done before the end of the year and then we start the next year fresh. Might have new members. We'll talk about that at the last meeting. Like I said before, if you know your appointment's ending and it's an election year, isn't it? Oh, that's gonna
yeah,
get
so that's gonna
weird.
make a difference.
That's gonna get weird.
Yeah, it's
Well,
gonna-
once the election day rolls around, you'll have a little bit more knowledge about that. So, and I would hope that everyone here would like to continue doing CDAC. I like working with you guys. And if you can, I understand too. Just let your accounts person know as well.
And we'll try to leave a legacy for the new people that will help them, which is including all of these initials and since acronyms, yes. If there's no other discussion, can we do a final attendance and then have a motion to adjourn, please? Beginning with Deb again.
Deborah Hogan, a mayoral appointee.
Mary Ann Callahan, First District.
Ebony Hato, 4th District.
Brandy Brown, District 3.
Kenya Middleton, mayor appointee and vice chair.
Justin McGregor, 7th District Secretary.
Michelle O'Loughlin, 5th District.
Marilyn Austin, 6th District.
Jacob Kumpon, Council at Large.
Can I have a motion to adjourn? Michelle, second.
I second.
Everybody in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? See you in November.